Hi there, I'm Bill Warner with Entradot. It's a pleasure for me to try to help you give a successful investor presentation. But let me expand on what I mean by this. This is certainly addressed to entrepreneurs of all kinds, whether you're starting a tech or biotech company, whether you're getting expansion funding for the very same company, whether you're a nonprofit serving a social cause, whatever it is that you're doing, including starting your own small business and you need some money to get started, whatever your purpose is, this pitch is going to help you put together a presentation that you have a reasonable chance of getting the money you're going to be asking for to get your foot in the door and get some consideration. So again, I'm Bill Warner. You've got my contact information. I'm serious about this. After you've gone through this presentation, if you've got questions about any aspect of this, just contact me. I'll answer your questions. But I want to see you be successful in raising money for your company. So let's get started. So let's make this whole thing a little bit bigger for you. But look, a lot of people misunderstand what this is all about. Raising money is a journey. Unfortunately, it could be quite a long one. So in whatever way you're raising money and from whomever it is, you're going to need a presentation that gets across very concisely what it is you want from them and why. These institutions from whom you're going to get money don't hear a presentation, then bring out the checkbook and assign you over $50,000 or something. They're going to take some more time to make sure that that's indeed what they should do. So these investor presentations, ultimately will help you get in the door to raise money, but they're actually an opportunity for you to get a commitment for the next steps in whatever process they have for deciding whether or not to provide you money. So you've got to foster excitement about this opportunity you have, instill confidence that you have the right team to do what you're talking about, and you demonstrate whether or not their investment or loan is going to be attractive to them. They're going to get a return on it in some form. So what we're going to do here is go through what an investor presentation looks like and how to deliver it. And this is mainly targeted at kind of the newer entrepreneurs that haven't done this before. But I'll tell you, the advice you're going to hear here for anyone raising money, whether you're experienced or a rookie, is going to be helpful. It'll be worth your time to go through it. So we're going to go through the steps of what it takes to put together a successful presentation. So here we go. So first of all, let's talk about the audience. What do investors want to see? They want to see a believable story that's quickly and concisely told to them. In other words, they get it quick. They want to see a well understood and growing market opportunity, a clear knowledge of who in that market, who the buyer is, that what you're offering is competitively differentiated in terms of your products and services against all comers that are going after the same people you are, a solid value proposition that you'll describe, achievable revenue model that you demonstrate how you're going to actually execute, a high barrier to entry, particularly in the investor world, where they want to know that nobody else can copy what you're doing very easily. They want to see you get into the market before everybody else. And a thoughtful go-to-market plan, attractive financial results, of course, and an outstanding return on investment. But I left off the first bullet of this chart, didn't I? The impressive management team. It's very important that the person making this presentation, who is the leader of this new business, that person shows them that they're the right person to lead this team, to lead this effort, and take great care of the money they're about to get. If the investors are not convinced that you're the person that they want to invest in, no matter how good this presentation was, they'll pass. That's another good reason why you want to make sure that this presentation is done convincingly and done by you, the person going to lead it, and that you show that you're the right leader. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, I'm going to now explain how you might have a chance to do this. This is a slide that I first put together, I think in 2005, last I recall. Here's the kind of the layout of it. Now, I'm going to go in depth in this a minute, but I want to paint this big picture for you. First of all, you are telling a story. Think of it that way. You are telling a really great story that has a beginning and a middle and an end. So, in this slide, completeness goes from the lower left to the upper right. The amount of time in which you had to do it goes left to right. And I'm saying in most cases, you'll have about 15 to 20 minutes to present this. But you go through this sequence of establishing the premise of your business by describing the problem you're solving, the opportunity you're going after, and the solution for it. You then, once establishing that, go on and say, here's my market and how big it is, who I'm going to be up against and how I beat them, and a little bit about the product and what's so darn innovative about it. Switch gears and talk about here's how I'm going to reach the market and my marketing branding strategy and plan. And once I've generated leads, how do I close sales and how do I distribute products and services through what channels? We'll talk about the management team, the people that we're going to rely on to pull this off, and then the financial success painted over a 1 to 3 year period of time. And finally, what I'm asking for in terms of an investment, a loan, equity investment, whatever it may be, and the kind of return you could expect. That is basically the theme of this whole thing. I'm going to go through this now one by one and talk about what it is you got to say at each step along the way here. That first step, I call it these days the need you're fulfilling. I also call it the premise of your business. At this very first slide in the presentation, you are establishing why this is what it is. It's the premise for what this business is all about. So you're going to describe a compelling need that you will fulfill for a market that you'll describe in a few minutes. This need could be a problem, a social cause, a new opportunity nobody's ever gone after before. You're going to speak it from the buyer's perspective. I'm rather ruthless on this. We want to know what the buyer thinks. Yeah, we respect your opinion, but we don't want you to tell us. We want you to tell us what your buyers are saying. Describe the pain the buyer has. Pain is their need in some depth. Explain why it's so important to them. Why is this a high priority for them? In other words, there's some chance they want to do something about it. Make it obvious why this buyer will buy something that you have that fulfills this need, and set the context for the whole business story by so doing. Before we go on to the next slide, I want to stress it's very important that at this very first slide, you stay on the subject of the need that the buyer has. Don't yet talk about how you're going to fulfill that need. You're going to do that in the next slide. But this is all oriented to what the potential customer needs and expressed from their point of view. I have to say that again because it's actually kind of hard to do. So now that we've described the need completely, now let's focus on how we fulfill that need. What you do is say how you're going to fulfill this need. Explain how your product and service satisfies this need you just described. And point by point, from the buyer's perspective again, and the benefits the buyer accrues by buying into what you're going to provide them. This is an overview. This is not a chance to go through all the feeds and speeds of your products and all that sort of stuff. It's just results oriented and it's quantitative, of course, but it hits the point in a few bullet points, literally. So make it obvious that this need is met, point by point, like I said. Show that it's a must-have, not a nice-to-have. In other words, there's a great possibility that they're going to want this. This all establishes what business that you're in. So those are the first two steps on that slide I showed you. Here it is again. And at this point, you will have made it or you have broken it already. If you've got the investors or whoever you're talking to on the edge of their chair after establishing the premise of your business, you're on for a happy ride for the rest of this presentation. If not, it's going to be rough because you will have lost them. If you haven't explained the premise of your business with some clarity and gained their understanding of what is the basis for this business, I call it the premise, with respect to their need and how you're going to fulfill it. And literally, this is done within 2 to 3 minutes. Now, many of you are going to say, I can't tell that in 2 to 3 minutes. Believe me, you can. You speak in results-oriented language to get these points across. You paint the picture of what this need is and how you fulfill it. Let's move on. So this section, your market definition, sets the context for the business. What market is all of this in? And you go through some form of market research and therefore market segmentation to explain what your selected market is. You paint the landscape of the entire industry. That can be done with a picture or a graphic. Drill down to the market segment within that, which is going to be your focus. Describe the buyer demographics of the people or the person that are going to make the buying decision for this fulfillment that you have. Explain the elements of revenue and explain the maturity of the market. A lot of words there, but these could be done in a few sentences supported by pictures. So the market segment size in revenue should be shown, needs to be big, show it over a 3 to 4 year period, show its growth rate. You also need to explain relevant, very important industry trends and influencers that drive this market. Why does it exist? So again, you did that in a couple of minutes. So now you've gotten to a point where this premise exists within a market. Now we're going to go take the next step is let's describe who we're up against, the competition. So characterize the key companies. We're not talking about a long laundry list, the top 2 or 3, the ones that you're going to be up against. Characterize these key players, and you can do it in a competitive matrix, and you compare what you have, what competitor 1, 2, and 3 have, and this kind of a slide is going to be very effective to visually show why you're superior to all of them. Because you got all the yeses and they got a bunch of no's with some yeses, but you clearly are better. So you show your superiority and therefore your business differentiation from them. You've done your SWOT analysis when you put your plan together. So summarize the results of that. And you say, our strengths are and their weaknesses are, and here's how we're going to go after them. So you explain how you will beat them. You've got the winning game plan because you know how to beat them. Ensure that your analysis ties to your market segment, shows these relevant competitors, explains the status quo. Your first and sometimes only competitor is how your potential buyers fulfill this need today, if at all. And this also tells why customers will buy from you and not somebody else. So that's your competitive analysis. Take a slide to do that. You've now gotten to the point where in your story, you've explained within the market you're going after, our solution is going to beat the competition. And you've described how. Then you move on and talk a little bit more about the product and services that you're going to be offering. Explain the key elements of your products and services. This is not a time to talk about the science of it all and go into depth. You've got 2 minutes to do this. So talk about the competitively important features, those that really spell your differentiation. Highlight the technological innovation, particularly if you've got patents and things like that. Highlight them. We're not going to go blow by blow in diagrams of your invention. Illustrate how you satisfy the buyer's needs with this product. So you strictly focus on the major needs. Here's how we do it. That would be enlightening to the audience. So you're showing why it will win against the competition and bring this whole thing to life as you give examples of all of these features that are so important to the competitiveness of your product. Go on then to describe how the product is packaged and delivered and explain briefly your readiness for the market. We're in beta, we're about to ship, we're finishing up development and testing, whatever state you're in, tell them how far along you are. You close out this section about your products and services with a discussion about barriers to entry, things that you've done that make it more difficult for your competitors or potential competitors to do exactly what you have done. So this usually takes the form of, first of all, just outlining what your secret sauce is. I stress capabilities. You do not have to explain the technical details of how you do it. In fact, don't. That's what you're trying to protect. But you explaining how difficult it will be to duplicate what you've done, it gives you a development time to market advantage over your competitors or anyone else who wants to really try to do what you have done, and in the manner in which you've done it. So this will take the form of some intellectual property ownership and protection, whether it be by confidentiality, trade secret, and the ultimate a group of patents that reflect what you have invented and why it's unique. And also for other forms of intellectual property, you've got copyrights and trademarks and things like that. But all in all, this will take unique skills and know-how for someone else to do what you've done. It will slow them down and give you time to stay ahead of them. So that's a barrier to entry. So stress the importance of this as well. So moving further, now you make a transition. You've got them on board with what it is you're doing. Now you're going to explain how the heck you're going to reach these buyers by talking about your marketing plan. A good thing to do in these presentations is to remind them, as you go into this, what your value proposition is. So you make a concise statement of the value of your product and services to the buyers. So you talk about the benefits that you bring. They're quantified to the best of your ability, demonstrating a return on investment for the buyer. Not you this time, the buyer. You're explaining the value that all of what you've just got through talking about is very advantageous to your buyer and explains why they will buy it. Then you explain your marketing plan. So you got two charts here. This is all about brand awareness and lead generation. Don't mix it up with sales yet. This is brand awareness and lead generation. And you want to get specific about how the buyer will be reached with your marketing programs. So you describe the appropriate and most meaningful awareness programs to reach the buyer so they become aware of what it is you offer them and that you recognize the need that they have. You do this in an affordable way because you probably don't have a lot of money, else you wouldn't be asking them for money at this point. And you also go on to explain the lead traction that you're expecting to get. And that is necessary to meet your sales goals. So yeah, you're going to get into the metrics of your marketing programs and show that you know how to reach the right number of people and you know the hit rate on the various kinds of approaches in marketing so that the magnitude of your marketing outreach is going to produce enough leads that you in turn qualify, and assuming some rate of acceptance, that there's a darn good chance if you get that many leads and you're then selling to them, as we'll describe in a minute, that you're going to meet your first year's revenue target. Show your current pipeline of customer prospects if you've already started your marketing program. Show your lead funnel. That's an interesting picture to show. It shows you've got some sense of the metrics and what it takes to get qualified leads. Highlight the best prospects you got and where you are with them. Investors love to hear that you really are reaching potential customers and you know how to do it. If you don't do this, you're going to leave a question in their mind. Do these people know what the heck they're doing? This sounds like a great product, but who's going to buy it? Do they know how to reach anybody that will buy it? You got to show that you can do that so that you now are demonstrating that you will get or you do have relevant marketing traction. So we've now taken the next step in this story. Now let's go to the next one and show what we do with the resulting qualified leads in your marketing program. So you got to describe your sales model, first of all. Are we doing direct sales or indirect sales? Or explain what it is. Explain pricing. We've put this all the way to this point. This is where I suggest it be placed. It can be done earlier in the pitch, but you got to tell what the price is. The fear is they're going to ask you in the middle of your presentation. If you get it out there sooner, that would be fine, but explain your pricing. Briefly outline your sales readiness and you're ready to go, or what you're doing to get ready to go. You have sales objectives. It's tied to your marketing plan, again, for your first year's revenue. Bring it to life with current status of sales, testimonials you've gotten, lighthouse accounts, by early customers, in other words, and customer closure or the next customer to close. Again, investors love to hear, and grant authorities love to hear that you're reaching your intended market. So build it up. Quite frankly, if you take 3 minutes on this slide, I wouldn't hurt you at all. I love hearing about customer success. All investors do. So explain your key alliances as appropriate. So now you've explained in terms of marketing and sales how you're going to reach your customer. That's a tall order. You're almost done now. You're going to take the next step and explain who the heck are you? Who are the people you included that makes up the management team of this company? So you describe your current management team, the role they play, the past successes and results they've achieved, in other words, their experience, their entrepreneurial experience, that they've done startups before, relevant industry experience, past relationships with each other. It's really nice to know that these people are going to do it for the second time. They know each other. Strong shows that they have that kind of regard for each other. They had managerial experience. In other words, they've had some success. If your management team isn't all filled up yet, you fully acknowledge that and explain what you're going to do to fulfill open positions within your management team. You're highlighting the team maturity and or the lack thereof in so doing, but focus on the needs of the company at the stage the company is at. This all will instill investor confidence in your team. Quite frankly, this may be one of the most important charts in your whole pitch. Many investors I know and grant authorities that I've worked with in the past and private individuals who loan money to early stage companies want to know that their money is in the hands of a very, very good team. So experience goes a long way. These have to be what I call A-plus players. If the management team isn't strong enough in the eyes of the investors, no matter what you've said up to this point in the pitch, this could be over. When it becomes evident that the management team of this company isn't capable of doing this. So this is a confidence builder that is essential to the success of this presentation. Assuming you've done a successful presentation of the management team, you can close this further out by sharing what your financial forecast is. This is pro forma kinds of stuff: revenue, gross profit, net profit, spread over 3 to 5 years or 2 to 3, whatever is appropriate for the constituency that you're going to be asking money from. But show your cash flow and significant capital requirements. But always point out that when you're profitable and when you're cash flow positive, showing wise use of your funds. But when you explain this and you talk about a revenue forecast, I say be aggressively conservative. So don't way overstate, but don't understate either. Stretch a little bit. And in your words, you say how challenging it is to reach this. But these final charts are getting across that you have a sense for how you're going to be successful financially. The last part of the presentation is the ask. And now you're talking to the investor or the grant authority and summarize why this is a great investment. It's a big market, has a compelling need that it's serving. It's a unique and winning value proposition. There's a clear path to this market to close sales and a rapid track to financial success. That's kind of what you want to get across in this investor highlights piece. You summarize the financing that you need, you want to raise, your use of funds in the context of the financing instrument that you're asking for, whether it's equity or debt, and you also show what the important terms are that you're looking for. Close it out with how you will make them money, particularly for investors, how you'll be able to pay back the loan that you're asking for. That one way to do it is that you eventually are going to sell the company. If that's the case for you, you explain what your exit strategy is and how you're going to pull it off, and what relationships that you've already started working on. An exit strategy, particularly for equity investors who want a multi-fold return on their investment, are very interested in how they're going to get their money, because they get it mostly through an exit, the sale of your company. So now you've completed the presentation, and at that point, you're going to have discussions and answer questions and get a commitment for the next steps. So you test for interest, answer their objections, ask what the next steps are for them in this process, whether it's for a grant or a loan or equity investment, and establish a agreed upon follow-up action plan and nail down the dates that it's going to occur. And when you've done that, the meeting is over. Now let's go through a few of the other things that help make a presentation successful. That's your presentation technique. I'm going to just go through this very briefly, but I want to get across the point. You've got to be really on your game. Use net and results-oriented language. In other words, you're brief, concise, to the point, but you're honestly positive about your company's outlook. Be professionally enthusiastic and confident. Don't disparage anyone or any company. That's a no-no. Carry yourself with a business demeanor, dress well, explain your business, not as a science project, but as a business. Don't preach or educate. These people could be very much smarter on the very subject you're talking about. Show your energy and sense of urgency. If you are dull, investors will think you really are and are going to be less interested in you. Respect the investor's time by finishing on time. Answer their questions directly, concisely. Be a master of the 45-second answer. No baloney. Dress professionally. That should help. But be prepared. Customize your presentation. Fit to the investor's interest by researching the investor or the granting authority. Learn about them and anticipate their questions as best you can. You got 15 to 20 minutes to tell your story. So practice, practice, practice. Know your major points, be concise, make it crystal clear and simple. It must be a no-brainer for them to understand. If they got to work at it, they're going to get tired in less than 20 minutes. Manage your time per slide. And then if you think you're done, you're not. Practice again and again and again. Your presentation material should be well done and cleaned up. Use 10 to 12 slides, more if really necessary, with consistent formatting. Don't be sloppy about this. Show that you care about what it is you're doing by having presentation material that looks more than halfway decent. Don't get too fancy though, with all sorts of media content, and you need an access to the internet that may fail on you in the middle of your pitch, or your video doesn't come up. Just be careful. Don't be wordy, but use brief bullet points, 3 to 5 words each. Use pictures, graphics, tables, any visualization. It is like 1,000 words. So for industry landscape, market opportunity, technology and process innovation, competitive advantage, like the competitive matrix I talked about, and the list goes on. Use visualization as much as possible. The next 5 slides I'm not going to pitch at all, but I've provided in this material typical investor or grantor questions, and I've done it for financial questions, market questions, marketing questions, sales questions, management questions, and technology questions. So I provided the kind of questions that you probably will see. It's not exhaustive, but it's pretty darn typical. Be prepared to answer those kinds of questions. So I hope this video is helpful. I've given my contact information, as I said earlier. Contact me anytime. I'd be glad to help you. I've done hundreds and hundreds of these, and they seem to work. I'm also a fund executive of an angel group, so I've seen a lot of presentations, both good, bad, and indifferent. I wish you well in your achievement of getting a grant or getting a loan from friends and family, or convincing some angel investors to invest in you, whatever you're trying to do. All the best of luck to you. Again, I'm Bill Warner. I'm with Entradot, and I want you to have a great day as you give your best pitch that you've ever done in your life.